In the last video, we learned about how to deal with people who approach us and share about their mental well-being. And in this episode, we will focus more on what if it happens in our workplace. How can we stay professional? And what are the limitations and boundaries that we need to watch out for when dealing with this sensitive topic in our respective companies? My name is Arvin, and in this episode, we will answer the question, what can I do when a colleague opens up about his or her mental health? Hi everyone, welcome to Ask Us by Inquire Academy, and in this channel, we aim to answer your questions about career and work life. So, if this is your first time, please do subscribe. And as I have said in the opening, we have shared about tips and insights on how to deal with people opening up their mental health. So if you haven't watched the first part, I strongly encourage you to go back and watch it as it gives you an overview of what we will talk about today. So the link for the first video is in the description box below. It is important to be more critical in the corporate world when dealing with someone's mental health, as it not only reflects your own personal image, but it also shows how much the company cares for their employees. I am joined by Sir Alan Gamboa, our resource speaker on people management, to answer how we can better help and support our employees who are dealing with stress and mental illness. The first thing that we can do for our colleagues is to be prepared. Even before someone approaches us, we can be proactive in knowing what are the protocols or policies that are in place. Knowing what is there can make the employee feel secured and will be taken care of properly by the company.
One thing that we need to remember is that a person who is suffering needs help. First things first, we need to find out what options exist. What is your company willing and able to do for employees undergoing such? In case the person would need to seek professional help, is your company going to shoulder it or perhaps even subsidize it? Will the person be allowed to take extended leaves if needed? Let's say the person has already used up his or her vacation leaves. Now, if the problem persists and you know that you need to let go of the person, what help can the company offer? So I know that these are difficult questions to ask, but you need to have the answers ready before you even talk to the person. This will allow you to provide the help that they need. Now, in case you're unable to prepare beforehand, then what you might have to do would be to just tell them, let me get back to you. But don't promise anything yet. The last thing you want is to promise something to them that you or the company will not be able to deliver.
In our previous video, we talked about actively attending to the person. We stop with what we are doing and prepare ourselves to listen. So in the professional context, we will do the same, but we will do it as a friend instead of a boss or someone superior to them.
There are a few things that I will recommend to you so that you can be a more effective friend and colleague. Remember, I'm saying friend and colleague because at this point, if you're the superior, if you're the boss, you don't want to be really seen as the boss. What they need right now is somebody who will be there for them and not to order them around. And that's really the first thing. You want to be there for the person. Being there means focusing on their needs, focusing on helping them, period. Versus helping them because you know that this person is working on a critical project or this person has a deadline that he needs to deliver and you want the person to get better right away. It also means being present, focusing on the person, regardless of the communication medium, whether it's a face-to-face conversation, whether it's a video conferencing conversation, or a phone call. You want to be present in the conversation. The main point here is to really show the person that you are there to sincerely help him or her.
Now, with listening to our colleagues, we want to be polite. We want to establish a healthy conversation by letting them share what they are currently feeling. Again, share our perspective only when asked, and as much as possible, we avoid talking about work and focus on the problem at hand.
You want to enable healthy conversation with them. Many people struggling often have deep problems and challenges that they're dealing with. Now, it's important to allow them to voice those out, as talking often helps. Maybe not fully, but it may ease things just enough until professional help is available. And as you talk to them, you want to ask more open-ended questions. Asking more open-ended questions allows them to be the one to share things with you. And as they talk to you, you want to listen very well as they speak and relate things to you. Control yourself from sharing your own stories unless you're asked. Remember, the conversation is not about you, but about them. And lastly, avoid talking about work in this particular conversation with them. The last thing you want is to make them feel that you're only doing this because you have an ulterior motive, which is to get the work done or to meet your performance targets. You don't want the conversation to feel like that. This conversation should be more of a healthy conversation, helping this person, this friend, this colleague to deal with some very tough issues.
While listening to what they are saying, we also emphasize the importance of empathy. We show them that we want to know more what they are feeling. We repeat some phrases that they mention so they can listen to themselves in another person through you, and also confirming the emotions that they feel.
Practice reflective skills. You want to empathize with them. If need be, you need to repeat or paraphrase what the person has just shared with you. And together with mentioning back to them or reflecting what it is they've just said, you want to also mention the feeling that you've sensed, the feeling that you've gauged as you were talking to them. How were they feeling as they were telling you these things? And so you mention that back to them as well. So, two things, their main concern and the feeling behind it. That's part of how you show them that you're empathizing.
Once we end the conversation with our colleague, it is now time to take the necessary steps. This is where we circle back on our first point and offer the available resources of your company to help your colleague.
So now that the conversation is over, you want to move quickly, act quickly, and follow through on what you've agreed with the person. The next steps that this person has decided on taking, you want to be able to do something about it already. Contact HR. Let them know what's happening in case you haven't done so already as you were trying to gather options. Tell them, this is what this person is ready to do now. Let's help this person.
So in summary, these are the skills that we can do to prepare you and your company when one of your colleagues asks for help. First is we prepare and research on the available company resources. And the next three, as highlighted in part 1, we want to be present as a friend and not as a boss. We listen attentively to enable a healthy conversation, and we practice our empathy skills and try to understand what they are going through. And lastly, we want to be fast in taking the next steps for our colleague. Now on the next part, here are also some additional advice to help you improve personally in dealing with your colleagues.
A couple of tips that I'd like to share with you for you to be able to avoid these things from happening for others and for yourself as well. Number 1, model healthy behaviors. If you need to take breaks, if you need to take a vacation, if you need to take a walk, do that. Be conscious about your mental health as well. And when you talk about your people, encourage them to take a break. Even if it's not a vacation that requires traveling, at least take a break. Remind people, hey, it's 5 o'clock. Let's continue this tomorrow. So model healthy behaviors. The other thing I wanted to share with you is, of course, to intentionally check on your people. And I know that this is something that you might have already heard from so many people already. But what I'd like to say is that when you ask your team regularly how they're doing, you want to really wait for an answer. You want to be sincere in asking how they're doing. Allow them to talk to you. Allow them to really share with you what's happening. It's best practice for managers these days to start meetings, to start work by asking people how they're doing, checking in on them, to know that everybody is okay and ready for work. So there are many ways that you can still continue to improve your behaviors and how you handle these things. There's so many sources, so many articles that you can find. But one thing I will very firmly tell you is to be conscious of the source. Make sure that it's coming from reputable sources. So I wish you well in your endeavor. I wish you well in handling the needs and the challenges of your employees. And just remember to be there for them.
Taking care of someone really requires a lot of practice and experience. And again, we end not with a solution, but with the message of making a plan for you and your company should this kind of mental health crisis comes up in your workplace. And like in the previous videos, we would like to learn more if you have any tips or insights. So feel free to write in the comment section below. And again, we invite you to visit our website and check our self-paced online courses that talks about mindfulness and reclaiming happiness. We wish you all the best, stay safe, thank you, and goodbye.